Hi there, I'm Sandeep Gurumurthy and you're with India's #1 business news channel, and straight to the top story that we're tracking this Tuesday evening. The government may have got it wrong on PF withdrawals yet again. The Labour Ministry today issued a quick clarification, keeping in abeyance a controversial clause which restricted PF withdrawals only for buying a home or meeting healthcare exigencies. The U-turn follows widespread protests across the country, especially in India's Silicon Valley, Bengaluru, where textile workers went on a rampage. Even some of the top corporates like Biocon were caught in the crossfire, with the angry mob taking to the streets.
Indeed, and all that was happening because Labour Minister Bandaru Dattatreya said that the curbs in PF withdrawals have been kept on hold up until the end of July. This is not the first time that the government's PF policy is facing flack from the salaried class. Finance Minister Arun Jaitley was forced to roll back the budget proposal and Provident Fund withdrawal curbs following widespread criticism, forcing the Prime Minister to step in. The government's flip-flop on PF withdrawals and what it means and why is it happening is our top story right here on India Tonight.
पहले वो रिटर्न नहीं कर सकता था. अभी हमने जो अवेंस करने से, अभी हम जो इसको अवेंस में लगाने से, वो अभी ये 4 कामों के लिए उन्होंने विड्रॉ कर ले सकते. रिटायरमेंट एज में लेने का जो प्रावधान हमने किया, वो प्रावधान के लिए हमने लीगल डिपार्टमेंट को भेजा है, लॉ डिपार्टमेंट को भेजा है. लॉ डिपार्टमेंट ने नोटिफिकेशन दिया है, लेकिन वो 1 मई से वो अमल होगा. तो मेरा अभी अवेंस में रखने से अभी 1 मई से नहीं होगा, 1 अगस्त से मैंने उसको अमल में आने के लिए उसको मैंने अनुमति दी है.
Now, Labour Secretary Shankar Agarwal spoke exclusively to ET Now's Gaurang Sinha on why the government was pushing this move in the first place and why was it then subsequently forced to roll back the curbs on PF withdrawals. Listen in.
It was done at the behest of the workers and the union.
Right.
Thereafter, it is not a U-turn.
Correct.
Because all these workers are led by the union leaders.
Correct.
These leaders are little more informed,
Right.
and they understand the nuances of systems little better.
Right.
They understand the value of the social security little better.
Correct.
That's why they insisted, and they wanted us to have these kinds of restrictions.
Correct.
But now the workers, they may not appreciate
Correct.
the value of a social security in the long term.
Correct.
They want immediate benefits.
Correct.
And that's why they are agitating that they should be allowed to withdraw the entire money.
Correct.
Now, that means what? We thought that let us give them some time, let them get educated.
Right.
At some point of time, when the workers again come back to us
Correct.
and say, no, we want these kinds of restrictions, so that at the time of our retirement,
Right.
we have got access to some fund,
Correct.
then we'll again put these restrictions.
So that in fact means that we haven't seen the last of this. So you will continue to consider these reforms.
It's a dynamic situation, and we are always open
Correct.
for taking those decisions which are in favor of the workers.
Right. So is it a possibility that in the future such restrictions could be brought in on an optional basis? Is that one of the things you're looking at, perhaps in the future?
Optional, so even today it is optional. Na? If you don't want to withdraw, you
Right.
don't withdraw.
Correct.
So you'll continue to have that money at the end of the career.
Correct.
But if you want to withdraw, you can withdraw. So option is available as on date.
Correct.
What we are saying that this option will not be available till you retire.
All right.
So this is what we are saying. But now, since they want that the entire money can be withdrawn at any point of time.
You just outlined the roadmap going forward in terms of PF reforms. Now, this particular reform may not have it may come at a later time.
Ultimately, PF is a social security.
Okay.
It has got basically 3 components.
Right.
One component is basically a coverage against life.
Correct.
That means coverage, insurance,
Correct.
in case of a natural death or
Correct.
in case of an accidental
Correct.
death,
Absolutely.
which is known as EDLI.
Correct.
And that continues. Not only that, recently we have enhanced the limit from 2 lakhs to 6 lakhs rupees.
Correct.
That means in case of a death, a person is entitled to get 6 lakhs rupees.
Correct.
Earlier they used to get only 2 lakhs rupees.
That's right.
So that is one part. Second is old age pension.
Right. Yes.
And that pension,
Correct.
the entire money comes from the employer's contribution, which is 8.33 of the wages.
Correct.
So we are not changing that. Not only that, we have made it much more attractive. And recently, the government has announced and government has implemented that the minimum pension would be 1,000 rupees.
That's right.
Though as per the formula and as per the contribution made by the employer and the employee,
Right.
suppose the pension comes out to be 200 rupees or 300 rupees. But we are now ensuring and implementing a scheme under which everybody would be given a pension of minimum 1,000 rupees per month. And for that, the government is spending something like 900 crores of rupees from the budget.
All right, that's Labour Secretary Shankar Agarwal essentially lining out there that this is not the last we've heard on this controversy perhaps, but we'll take it across to Gaurang Sinha and Faye D'Souza to understand just how big is this latest rollback, and if it hadn't happened, how would it have really impacted your life? For Gaurang, these rules were supposed to come into effect by the 30th of April. Then, of course, it was pushed up until the 1st of August. A major U-turn after it was completely withdrawn, isn't it?
Well, over the past 2 days, we have seen a number of changes in stance. The Labour Minister first proposing that a number of specified purposes, such as, for example, health or education reasons, could be reasons and could be grounds for withdrawal of the complete corpus. So the government finally going ahead and completely withdrawing the notification, which would have, of course, placed restrictions of withdrawal from the PF account as far as the employer's contribution is concerned. Now, essentially, a number of factors have been taken into this mood, number of agitations being held throughout the country, in some cases violent as well, and certainly the Labour Ministry and the government at the centre have succumbed to the pressure and gone ahead and completely withdrawn the notification. Now, speaking to ET Now, the Labour Secretary in fact said that the idea to bring these restrictions was in fact mooted by the unions themselves, which had felt that creating these restrictions would have led to some sort of a social security. The workers, however, seem to have not taken it very well, and that seems to be the major grounds under which this withdrawal has happened. Now, as far as the future of this move is concerned, the Labour Secretary has been extremely clear in saying that the government will not stop considering these proposals, and in fact going ahead once there's greater acceptance of the idea, could consider reintroducing these restrictions as well. Now, of course, the PF account is a major part of the government's strategy. In the budget as well, there were proposals to create these restrictions by taxing a portion of the proposal of the corpus as well, but it certainly seems that in terms of the overall acceptance of these moves, it's not yet time, but we will of course have to wait and see what the government does. It's certainly not the last we've heard of this proposal.
Oh yes, certainly not the last we've heard, given the government's own track record and the flip-flop that it has done over PF. But let's bring on board Faye and put it in perspective for some of our viewers who need to understand this in a slightly more nuanced manner. Faye, put it in perspective, given what happened in the budget, the subsequent rollback, why has there been such a big furor over this move, and why has the government got it so horribly wrong?
Well, the entire EPFO has been a constant source of embarrassment for the government this year, starting from budget day, when they announced that 60% tax on withdrawal and then decided to roll it back. Post that in February, we heard the announcement that there would be restrictions on withdrawal. Now, as of now, if an EPFO member like you and me is out of work for 2 months, you're allowed to withdraw your entire amount. Now, the proposed changes would have meant that your withdrawal age moves from 54 to 58. Also, you would not be allowed to touch your employer's contribution and the interest on it at all until the age of 58. And obviously, this made a lot of people uncomfortable. The rule was supposed to come into force on the 30th of April. And we saw a lot of people, we received a lot of calls on the channel saying, should we pull our PF out right now because we're allowed to do so? That was obviously not a good position for the EPFO to be in. Now, after these protests, yesterday we heard the government was actually thinking of allowing housing, medical care and engineering education withdrawals. Now, I don't know why only engineering and nothing else, but it does seem like that was not very well thought out. Further protests today, the government has decided to push the decision by another 3 months. I think we've heard, of course, that the idea behind the Finance Ministry working on the PF is to turn it into a solid pension generating income for a large portion of the population after we retire. Remember, we don't have social security. But I think unless they sit down with representatives of the salaried class and find out what the regular person wants, they're going to continue to have similar embarrassments in the future.
Faye and Gaurang, thank you very much for joining us with those details. But remember, this did cause a lot of heartburn across the country, and the government's decision to backtrack on the announcement was largely due to the widespread protests that were witnessed in Bengaluru, actually, where thousands of protesters did take to the streets, resulting in a lot of damage to public property. Nikhil Joshi from Times Network joins us with a grounds report right now.
The issue of Provident Fund and its complete withdrawal was a topic of discussion in the state of Karnataka like many other, but in this particular state and the city of Bangalore, a good amount of confusion prevailed, because of which the workforce resorted to a protest. Thousands of whom gathered on the Electronic City main road at Bomanhalli Junction yesterday, and a similar effort was made this morning as well. With the timely intervention of the police, who managed to disperse the crowd, the protest was brought under control in the first half of the day. But in the second half, and what can be seen as a retaliatory reaction of the protesters, they came together in large numbers, barged into the compound of the Hebagudi police station amongst many other installations that they attacked. On this day, you could see that there are a good number of evidences, there are telltale signs of how the entire incident unfolded. You could see a good number of stones that were used to pelt at the police station still lying on the ground here. At least 5 vehicles parked in the compound of the Hebagudi police station were set afire. The real danger was in the fact that there are hundreds of cylinders that are stored right behind the police station, very close to the vehicles that were torched. On another day, the consequence of the same could have been far worse. In fact, amongst the installations attacked on this day by the protesters was Biocon. The premise of Biocon was completely ransacked, as hundreds of protesters managed to break through the gates of Biocon, shattered the windows there, anything that came in their way, and also damaged several of those cars that were parked in the compound. The HR head of Biocon went on to say that it was the police who came to their rescue at the end of it and managed to contain the situation with minimal damage. In all, the incident of protest itself can be seen as a consequence of poor anticipation on the part of the police department. Even though there were massive protests yesterday, there didn't seem to be sufficient deployment of police force that could have contained the situation on this day, not letting it to go to the extent that it went to, damaging properties, both private and public, and also injuring many, including policemen and the protesters. In Bangalore, Nikhil Joshi for ET Now.
We are all in a state of shock, employees from all the departments. So, like, I was telling the other members that around 11:30, we had a set of people pushing the gate and coming into the campus. Looked like a mob. When I stepped out of the office, they were all armed with sticks, pipes, and they were screaming, shouting, and trying to break down doors. So that's how it started, and it went on for about an hour and a half.
Did you call the police, and how much time did they take to respond, sir?
No, we called the police immediately. The police also came in, but they had to get their own reinforcements done, and they really helped in dispersing, because without their help we couldn't have been able to control the mob. But still, it took about an hour and a half to empty the campus and then, take care of the employees and other collateral damage.
Any injuries to people, sir, in your office?
Thankfully, most of our employees are safe. We had a couple of employees who got injured at the beginning, people from admin and security who were trying to protect the perimeter, but nothing serious. They are being tended to in hospital, and they will be safe.
Modi government is fully with the concerns and feelings of the agitating garment workers and other employees of unorganized sector, especially regarding the employees' provident fund issue. After August 1st also, considering issues of higher education, illness and ailment, marriage, and building of the house for higher education, such things, it can be withdrawn. But I want to assure the agitating garment workers and other unorganized sector employees that we have impressed upon the Honorable Minister that it is the right of the employee, the labourer and the garment worker to take back every penny that has been deposited in his name, whether by himself or by his employer.
I am in touch with Dattatreya ji and explained the situation in Karnataka, and I requested him to take immediate steps, and mostly by 1 or 2 hours he may be going to take decision, and I will request police officers not to do any lathi charges, anything against the agitated workers.
Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/ETNow and don't forget to click the like button. You can also follow us on Twitter at ETNowLive. To stay updated with all our programming, hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel by logging on to youtube.com/user/ETNow.